Kangaroo lady shows up. Ray gun. I was so sad. Nashville, Tennessee, what is good? Oh, I was all excited. I just got new fake money for the money gun, and I was over exuberant in how much I loaded in. I was like, I want it to be nice and full. And it was too full where I jammed the money gun. That's just how much fun energy I'm trying to bring to Nashville. How's it going, everybody? We having a fun time tonight already? Well, good, because we haven't done anything yet, so this will be great. No, I'm very excited to be here. I'm very excited to return to Nashville. It's been a minute since I have been here. As the lighting changes. But I'm super stoked to be back. I'm super stoked to be covering Heroes of Olympus here in your fantastic city. I had a bit of a troublesome time getting here, which you may have seen me posting on Instagram, but my flight was supposed to leave at 8 in the morning. It did leave at 3 p.m., which is, you might be aware, not close together. But it was okay. I was able to do lots of prep for the show in the airport, which is all good. So let's get into this show. We've got some spicy chapters of The Lost Hero to cover. And of course, I will be joined by a special guest because I'm never doing this alone. I'm never on this journey alone. So please make some noise for our very special guest this episode. He's someone that I used to live with in college, and now we're still hanging out doing different nerdy stuff. Make some noise for Michael Hollis! Hello.
How are you doing?
How's it going?
Pretty good.
How's it for you just to have to drive to the show as opposed to have to fly and everything? Like you have to come for the other shows with me.
Yeah, it was a pretty smooth 2-hour drive from Huntsville, Alabama.
Mm-hmm. Where halfway through I let you know, oh, oops, I will not be landing at 10 in the morning.
I could have slept in.
But alas, here we are. We're going to be covering some chapters from The Lost Hero. You've been on the podcast enough now. We're getting into the territory of I haven't solidified the guest questions, but I still want to ask you some fun ones. So one that I've been workshopping a little bit has been, if you had a riptide, so you've got a sword pen, what inanimate object would it be? Jason's got a coin. Percy's got a pen. What would you have?
Okay. My first thought was that it would be a regular pen because it'd be really convenient for a pen that like you can't lose. It just, like,
okay. So your riptide is just pen.
It's just a pen.
The pen.
It's just a pen. Yeah, it's still magic because it like pops in my pocket.
Sure.
It's just a pen. My slightly more fun answer was a pen that turns into a water bottle that's always full.
Oh, that would be good.
That'd be a fun thing to like not be able to lose. And you don't have to worry about like a heavy water bottle.
Yeah, because I have this guy that I bring everywhere and it clunks around. And if anyone has like a hydro flask or one of these things, it's fun whenever you drop it in the airport and it sounds like the hallway exploded. So that's always a good time. Or if you like accidentally hit something with it or your own knee and then you're down on the ground for minutes on end. Yeah, it's a good time.
Mm-hmm. I'm just now realizing that I misunderstood the question.
No.
You were wondering what object I would have that would turn into a weapon.
I think it's
not what pen object would turn into.
I think it's more fun. The question should be, because like we don't, as much as we want to, we don't need swords or javelins.
Swords not
so
super
instead,
helpful.
I think this is how the question becomes official. It is you get a thing that's
it's a pen.
It's an inanimate object that you have on you, and then it turns into a different thing that would be useful. That's a way more fun question. So we've stumbled into success.
You're welcome.
Well done, just as we planned. Now, speaking of things we planned, there is something that I wanted to do because when we had, by we I mean me, when I had the very interesting delayed flight situation, I was in pretty good spirits about it. A, because I was in a part of the airport that had a lounge that I had access to, so I got free food, and like, what are you going to complain about when you're eating free food? But the real thing was a very fun comedic moment that happened right after the devastating news came in. So we're going to do a little bit of acting here. You may have seen our work in Rice University's production of Midsummer Night's Dream, which is available on YouTube. But Michael will be playing the role of the person giving the announcement after we have deplaned. We were like on the tarmac for like 15 minutes where they were like, we're just checking a problem. And then they were like, oh, we got to do this other test. It was another 15 minutes. Then they do the full test, which was another 30 minutes. We're on the tarmac for an hour. And then eventually the captain's like, guys, we got to get off the plane. I'm so sorry. The way I found this out was after he did the second thing where he was like, oh yeah, we're just going to do this test and we'll be good. I had a whole row to myself. So I was like, sweet, I'm going to go to bed. So I just like took a nap. And then I woke up to everyone deplaning, but we were still in New York. And I was like, problem. So this takes place right after we've deplaned and they're giving us the bad news. Michael's the gate agent. And then I will be the woman sitting across from me at the table, kind of close to our gate, but not at our gate.
Okay, let me get in character.
Yeah, me too.
For all those here booked for the 8 a.m. flight to Nashville, here's the situation. There was a mechanical issue with the plane, and we have a new plane headed to the airport for us. If you checked a bag, you need to head to baggage claim and get your bags. If your destination is Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas, or Denver, you will have to get your bag from the oversized luggage counter. When you pick up your bags, explain the circumstance to the attendant and get the bag tag from them. If you have a connecting flight, you will most likely miss your connection. So, you will get your bags, go to the ticketing counter to work with the agent about the booking of a flight to get you to your other destination. If you didn't check a bag, you can stay right here as we will be taking off out of the game next to us at 1:25.
That sucks. And that was it. And I lost my mind. This old lady was just sitting across, scrolling her phone. She is not waiting for this flight. She's on a different flight. This announcement was minutes long. People are very frantic. And there's like, when she would say things about getting her back, there'd be like murmurs of like, what? No. And all this stuff. And she just doesn't look up from her phone. And she just goes, that sucks. And I lost it. It was so good. And it genuinely put me in good spirits for the rest of the afternoon.
I mean, she wasn't wrong.
She was not wrong. It did suck. But for the other people who checked their bag, and I've never been more vindicated in my never checking a bag life. Now let's talk about books. This is clearly a Percy Jackson podcast. You can tell by the ceiling that has our logo on it. So for the folks at home, not lying. So here we are, chapter 41. It's called Leo, surprisingly, but we will retitle it by the end. Where we last left our heroes, they were going up Mount Diablo. Now, we're recording this on August 24th. You haven't heard the podcast episode that is coming out tomorrow. By tomorrow, I mean Monday, which is not tomorrow. So if you had heard that, this is the point in the show where you would have gone, oh my gosh, you would have been so proud of me, because in that episode which is coming out, I correctly predicted that they're going to Mount Diablo. So just you should all be very proud of me. But
good job, Mike.
Yay, we did it. Now there's people that I can tangibly see they're proud of me rather than just me screaming into my microphone at the home recording like, see, I told them. So we are going up Mount Diablo. So it begins with this quote. Leo hoped the taxi could take them all the way to the top. And as someone that's been on Mount Diablo, you can. You can take a car basically all the way to the top. There's like a lookout, so you can hike it if you want. If you just want the views, you can just drive up. So
there's not a ranger station that's closed with a gate halfway through?
I'm sure there is, but there are some factors contributing to what should be an easy drive to the top. So the car breaks down and the road is closed, which just really stinks. And this is classic Gaia, or again, as we'll be saying in the podcast we haven't heard yet, the audiobook calls Gaia Gia, and I think I'm just going to call her Gia now, imagining that she's like a small Italian woman. I don't know why I don't know how they decided on Gia and not Gaia. It seems pretty obvious to me, but I just want to keep calling her Gia for the rest of the podcast.
My sister has like a tiny chihuahua named Gia, which is a much different vibe from like an immortal
I like
primordial
this even better
Earth
now.
goddess, but like equally as like angry and mean.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, so it's all Gia's fault. So Leo gets out quickly because he has a bad feeling about the car troubles. And yeah, the dirt road has basically turned into quicksand around the wheels. So Leo then pays the cabbie and tips him handsomely because the money that they're using is from Aphrodite. And I appreciate this. When you have money that isn't really yours and you have the opportunity to give someone a fat tip, give them a fat tip. Why not?
Right. When generosity literally costs you nothing.
Right. Like
Go for it.
when I was still an engineer and I had like the company card to go out for meals and stuff, I would tip quite well. And I was already a generous tipper since I worked as a waiter for 3 years. But unfortunately now, the company card that I have, I pay it off. So it's not as loose as I was with my engineering money. But I still tip quite well.
I was going to say about the opening line, and then I
Sure.
got distracted thinking about my sister's a very angry dog. I really like Uncle Rick's, like, it's not quite in medias res, but he, like, just skips a bunch of steps.
Right.
Like, Leo hoped the taxi could take him to the top. I had to, like, go back to the chapter before. There was no taxi. You just jumped from, like, they were at this cafe, and now you're at the top. And I really appreciate he's, like, very economical with how he, like, paces things and, jumps to the action.
It's nice. I think it's the narration style of this book allows him to not only trim the fat, but it also just lets you do some fun things that catch the reader off guard. Because I'll have the same kind of thing. You read this first line and then you go, taxi, what? But then you can piece together it, save some time. And then it also is why, like, the first line of every chapter is just so much fun because you don't know what's going to
Yeah,
happen.
he, like, trusts you to, like, catch up a second.
Yeah, it's him trusting that the reader isn't going to be, like, completely thrown off. And that is the joy of this being, like, slightly older age demographic as opposed to the Percy Jackson books. You know, you
Okay,
can,
now we can go back to the terrifying game of the floor is quicksand.
yes, the floor is quicksand. So he gets out quickly, tips the guy handsomely, and then he takes in the view. Jason points out, looking out at the view, he goes, that's Concord to the north, and that's Danville to the south, and that's Berkeley Hills to the west, and San Francisco is farther beyond that. And then Piper goes, Jason, you remember something? You've been here before? And then Jason goes, no, there's a map right here. No, he doesn't. He says, yes, no, it seems so important. And man, my sweet child Jason, just so confused. He doesn't know anything. He has no idea what's going on. I feel so bad for him. Hedge says that San Francisco is Titan land, so keeping their distance here is a good plan and they should keep doing it.
Yes, it's Titans that are causing the mist, and definitely not some other reason.
Yeah, surely the Titans are at play. So Leo wonders why Jason is so connected with a place that is so often and so closely associated with the Titans. He starts to wonder, is Jason from here? Then he starts to worry, is Jason potentially an enemy? Was bringing him to Camp Half-Blood a mistake? But he brushes all of this off because Jason's their friend and they gotta support him. Now, the quicksand effect is not just happening to this car, it's beginning to happen to Leo's feet, so he hurries the group along, and Hedge says that Gia is stronger here. Hedge takes off his shoes, because remember, he's wearing the fancy outfit from The Mask, and he gives his fancy shoes to Leo to hold, because he says that he likes them. And then Leo sarcastically asks, oh yeah, you want me to shine them too? And then Hedge goes, next level thinking, Valdez, which is great.
I definitely laughed at this, and it's like, I don't think Uncle Rick was necessarily like a coach while he was a teacher, but you know that he worked with coaches.
Yes.
Like, he has that voice down.
You're right. I didn't think about that.
That's varsity thinking, Valdez.
Yeah, that's good because it's something that I picked up on, that he was so good at writing what kids sound like because he's a teacher. But you're exactly right. He's also very good at writing what a coach sounds like. I love Coach Hedge. I want him in every book. He's so fun. He's so fun. Now, after he says that it's next level thinking, Hedge says, but we should probably do it after we're done here, which is great. Like, Hedge not getting it, A+. Piper asks, okay, how do we find enchiladas? And Jason sees smoke coming from the peak. So they all rush because smoke.
That's the
means
giant,
fire.
by the way.
Yeah.
She's not hungry.
I am just fully committed to only calling the giant enchiladas. I don't want to deal with the pronunciation. People have gotten mad at me, and I'm just going to talk about enchiladas. Makes me happy. Here we are. So Leo is struggling on the hike, despite the wilderness school being physically demanding and him going on hikes on field trips before. The quicksand effect is just making it really tough. So Leo rolls up the sleeves on his collarless shirt. And at the first mention when I was reading this, I didn't really know like what a collarless shirt meant. But then I recently saw that clip. Anyone see the clip from Magnum P.I. where he shoots the nun because she's working on a Sunday? So it's this a TV show from like the 80s. And he's some sort of private eye. And he's like walking through Hawaii is I think where it takes place. And then there's like, he sees a nun on a ladder, like fixing a window. And he walks by and he's like, hello, sister. And then she like very sketchily in some thick accent is like, hello. And then he takes a couple steps and then he turns around and he goes, nuns don't work on Sundays. And she has a gun pointed at him and he pulls out the gun and like jumps out of the way and shoots her.
And he's wearing a collarless
he was
shirt.
wearing a collarless shirt. And I was like, oh. So I watched that in between reading this and doing the show. So now I know what a collarless shirt looks like. It's basically basically what you would assume. It's kind of just like a button-up shirt, but then instead of having like a collar,
a
like
shirt
this
that
one,
you would expect to have a collar, but doesn't.
but not right. Because when it first said collar shirt, I was like, so you mean a shirt? But
A t-shirt?
now I get what it means. So Leo wishes that Aphrodite had given him more hike-ready clothes. And it is funny, I would assume that Aphrodite knew what they were doing, and she just put them in the least appropriate outfits possible for the task at hand. And like, sure, the vibes can be fun, but like, it's terrible for a hike what she's put them in. Piper's wearing a dress and leggings. Leo's got suspenders and stuff. Coach Hedge is wearing the suit from The Mask. They're not ready for a hike.
Listen, one goddess can only do and she already gave him so much of a helping hand getting him there. She's allowed to have a little fun.
That's true. That's true. Got to have a little fun. Now, Leo nervously makes a wind-up toy on the walk up, and I'm only noting this here in my notes because when he put it back into his tool belt, quote, he was not sure what it could do. So now it has been established as Chekhov's wind-up toy, and it will certainly be coming back. But when I was first reading, I was like, whatever. He does this all the time. But then with that line, I was like, just kidding. I have to add this to my notes now.
Yeah, I'm really jealous of his like belt of infinite fidget toys. Just
Yeah.
like always something to tinker with, and it's a fun shorthand to signal that he's like really nervous and anxious about this.
Yeah, it's nice. Now, Leo misses his army coat with all of the pockets, but more than that, he misses Festus. And I miss Festus too. I want Festus back in some form. Hopefully he will come back. He then pats the crayon drawing in his pocket, which he just recently got back from Aeolus, and he thinks back to the day he made it, how the wind took it, how Tia Kaida said that it's not his time yet, but his time will come. And with Aeolus returning the drawing to him, Leo knows that his destiny soon approaches.
What do you know about the drawing at this point? Do you know what it's about?
It is a ship of sorts, and the top of it is Festus.
Okay,
And,
so you know
and it's
that
in
part.
crayon, and he made it when he was like 5, and the wind blew it away because like it wasn't ready yet. So that's it. Because yeah, he knows the top is Festus because when he was in Bunker 9, he saw Festus and he was like, that looks like the top of my crayon drawing. Whoa. But I don't think the ship has like come into play yet. So
Okay.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah, I thought it was really cool tying together like the ground is trying to swallow us up. Plus, I had this dream of this flying machine, and it's kind of like, that would be really nice right about now.
It would be super convenient.
Yeah.
It would be really nice. Now, Leo thinks to himself, first things first, survive today, figure out crayon drawing of destiny later. So it seems like Leo might not even know. In the previous chapters, it kind of seemed like he might know the implications and he didn't want to tell the group that, which is kind of a Leo move. But now it kind of seems like he might not even know what's going on, just that it's important, but not like specifically why.
Isn't that just a classic demigod problem where you like finally find out what your destiny is, but like first you have to survive this totally unrelated quest before?
It seems to be every book except for the 5th book in the series problem. Yeah. Jason crouches behind a rock wall and motions for the others to do the same. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, Enchiladas is approaching. Piper has to pull Hedge down to the ground because he's afraid of getting his outfit dirty. 1, same, I totally get it. 2, Hedge is incredible. I love this. It's so good. I love especially this with the fancy outfit thing because it doesn't seem like the type of thing Hedge would like, but he just got this outfit that he loved so much and he's so dedicated to it, not getting it dirty. Oh, it's just great. He's just so much fun. Now, you can call the team me just after ordering at a Chuy's restaurant in Texas because they can see enchiladas coming. Quote, trees had been cut down to make a towering purple bonfire. The outer rim of the clearing was littered with extra logs and construction equipment, an earth mover, a big crane thing with rotating blades at the end like an electric shaver. I was very glad that they gave this description. Must be a tree harvester, Leo thought, because if they said tree harvester, I would have gone, oh. Must be a tree harvester, Leo thought, and a long metal column with an axe blade like a sideways guillotine, a hydraulic axe, and Thumbelina must be in shambles. Or is it Fern Gully? It's Fern Gully. What's the difference between those movies? Are they the same? Which is the one where they're destroying the forest? I think it's Fern Gully. Okay, I got a yes from one person in the front row. What's the difference between, what's Thumbelina then?
No, not really Fern Gully.
Not Fern Gully.
Unrelated?
Okay, but also small like pixie type thing, yeah?
It's not like green.
It's not nature-y? Okay.
Oh, okay. More Fey magic stuff.
No, I want environmentally friendly stuff. Yeah, give me Fern Gully all day, every day.
I thought you were going to go with Avatar, but the blue one this time, not the Last Airbender.
No, no. Oh, the problem with Avatar, the blue one, is just Pocahontas with blue. Like, it's just... It's just Pocahontas.
Isn't Fern Gully like Pocahontas but animated?
I
don't know. I haven't watched
was gonna say I haven't watched it since I was like 5. My sister had it on VHS and like that like clunky plastic VHS containers that you have. Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember there's like a construction guy and he's like, "Whoa, a fairy and she's hot." Yeah, I don't know. That's where it starts and ends. Leo isn't sure why enchiladas would need this equipment, and he's also not sure that enchiladas could even fit inside the machinery. Great train of thought from Leo. Enchiladas is so grotesque that Leo doesn't want to look at him, but thankfully for our benefit as the reader, he does and gives us a very lengthy description of him. Quote, "To start with, he was 30 feet tall, easily as tall as the treetops. Leo was sure that the giant could have seen them behind their ridge, but he seemed intent on the weird purple bonfire, circling it and chanting under his breath. From the waist up, the giant appeared humanoid, his muscular chest clad in bronze armor, decorated with flame designs. His arms were completely ripped. Each of his biceps was bigger than Leo. His skin was bronze but sooty with ash. His face was crudely shaped like a half-finished clay figure, but his eyes glowed white, and his hair was matted in shaggy dreadlocks down to his shoulders, braided with bones." It's such a good description. Rick is so good at this.
I think he definitely topped his like monster description levels.
Which were already so high. Like when you have ones like Pompeii and all these other wonderful creatures from the first 5 books, he is continuing to hit with these descriptions over and over and over again. And I really like it. And also a little side tangent. Anytime someone says something is like a unit of 10 feet tall, I always just think that's how many basketball hoops high it is. So when they're like, he's 30 foot tall, I was like, oh yeah, 3 basketball hoops. Just like, that's always what I do. Same thing with like if hundreds of yards, like, yep, that many football fields. That is just how it is for me. Maybe that's just my little basketball boy brain, but anytime you do that, that's what I'm thinking. It'd be really hard to dunk on that. 30 feet, really tall.
Plus really wide.
Yeah, also, yeah. I mean, but the thing about the description that was the most jarring of the size, because even though I can envision 3 basketball hoops on top of each other, that's still like something I've never seen in my life, so I don't exactly know. But when they said his bicep was bigger than Leo...
Both of them.
Both
of his biceps.
Well, and that's like each bicep is bigger than Leo, yes, right? Or he's not saying the combined mass of the 2 biceps, right?
Your guess is as good as mine.
I'm saying
do you have 2 biceps in one arm? I don't know.
Oh no, but I'm just making sure that it's like each individual bicep is bigger.
Yes.
It would be funny if it was like his right
he has
bicep
2
was
Leos on his arm.
yeah. It would be funny if it was like his right bicep was bigger than Leo. His left bicep was about Leo size. Looks like he needs to focus on his offhand. But that was the thing that really kind of put into perspective how big he is. Because how old is Leo in this book? Like 15?
Yeah.
So like
maybe 16.
His bicep is as big as a teenager? Like that's huge. That's ridiculous. Like this is not anywhere close. I'm not that I have big biceps, but like that's not anywhere close to it. Size of a teen. He's huge. 30 feet tall is nuts. How are they going to fight this guy?
Well, I think we'll see.
We will. So we've got this big scary guy facing us, and not only is he big and scary, but he's also big and scary from the lower half as well. The lower half situation, not great. He's got scaly green legs, he's got claws for feet, and a large spear in his hand, which he keeps dipping in the fire to keep it molten hot. So, seems intimidating. Hedge begins to propose a plan, and Leo tells him, you can't charge him alone. Just guessing exactly what Hedge's plan is, and Hedge immediately replies, aw, come on.
Where does this guy get his confidence?
I don't know, but I love it.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy it.
Like, has he had success in the past, or is he just like to the point in his career where he like wants to go out in a blaze of glory?
I don't know. I guess maybe it's more down the coach thing, right? Like he's got all the self-confidence that he's like motivating the team. It also could be, remember in the earlier chapters, he laments that he like never has really been in the thick of the action. So it could be this like misguided confidence.
Trying to prove himself.
Yeah, or not even that, but just like he's never actually been in a fight. So he's like all of us on our couch watching the Olympics and we're like, I could do that. Which...
I could not. I am not that guy.
I'm so firmly, they almost did this last Olympics when they had the Jonas Brothers do their Olympics thing, where it was like the Joe Bros do the things. But it was like a separate TV program where you could watch the Jonas Brothers like not be good at the hurdles. But I think when the Olympics are going on and they're doing the event, they should have a thing, because there's like all this downtime, especially if you're not watching the like primetime thing. Like there's tons of downtime before they do the actual event. When they're doing like the hurdles, they should be like, and here's Jim, and he's is just a guy. And like every event should have like just a dude doing it. Like high jump. Oh yeah, Jim got 4 feet. Good job, Jim. Here's the athlete, 8.5 feet. Like they should have a regular person do all of the things to put in perspective.
Didn't they basically do that for the breakdancing and people got mad about it?
I watched that live. I was so excited for breaking. I was so hyped for it because I did dance growing up and I've seen some really impressive dance stuff all my life. And I've seen some very cool breaking performances and I was so stoked about it. And we started watching it and I remember like hyping it up to when my parents were in town. We were watching. I was like, let's watch breaking. And the first couple of people were really good. And then Kangaroo Lady shows up, ray gun. I was so sad. And now they're not doing it at the Los Angeles Olympics. Like, I'm sure it wasn't already going to be at the Olympics. I'm sure that decision was made beforehand. But imagine living in the world where you were so bad at an Olympic sport that you ruined the fun for everyone else, probably forever. Like, they're not bringing breaking back ever. It's going to be a weird, like, everyone get ready for trivia 40 years from now. Or I guess if you're listening to this podcast 40 years from now on your built-in phone to the back of your hand under President Lord Supreme Jeff Bezos, then they're going to be like, in the 2024 Olympics, there was a one-time event that was never done again, destroyed by the competitor ray gun. Which event was this? Like, that's going to be a thing. It's going to be a blip on history because this Australian person who looked like a tennis line judge ruined it for everybody.
So anyway,
Percy Jackson. But seriously, I think for the Olympics, we should do this. How did I even get on this tangent? Oh, Coach Hedge. But
confidence.
Your confidence. I think it could just be a thing where Coach Hedge has like never been into a fight. He thinks he can do all this stuff. So maybe if he actually gets into a fight, he will realize he can't do it. But just thinking about it, he has like conveniently been left out of a lot of fights. Like he was outside for the Midas thing. Nothing really went down for Aeolus. We'll see what happens to him in this chapter or the next chapter when the fighting doesn't actually work out there. So I wonder if it's just going to be like this strange thing of he just keeps like not getting the chance. And part of the joy and the allure of Hedge is that he never actually does get into a fight, even though he has all this confidence that he would be so good at it. We'll just have to see. But that's where I think it's at. But anyway, he's got all this confidence. He wants to take him on. He wants to go alone. Leo says, you can't do it. Piper then tears up and draws the group's attention to her dad. Her dad is tied up onto a post near the bonfire and he's unconscious. Leo wishes that this was a classic Tristan McLean action movie because if it was, he would make this daring escape and defeat the villain. And then I love that he says, with the mountain exploding behind him, which is funny that obviously a mountain exploding would have to be a volcano. But it is funny that in Leo's dream of what a fantasy, magical fiction movie is, it did happen to them when they left from Medea's mall and it exploded behind them. So he's getting to live out his cool action movie fantasies.
I also get the impression that Leo has seen a lot of Tristan McLean movies. I don't know if they've talked about it, like he's a fan of action movies or something, but yeah, I think he's definitely the type that would enjoy that kind of frenetic explosions happening everywhere.
I like to live in the fiction where Leo is a huge fanboy over Piper's dad, and he just has to constantly like keep it chill. Like, don't be weird, don't be weird. You might get invited over for dinner and then you can meet him. Don't be weird. So narrator Leo, in what I can only assume is the in a world voice, says, but this wasn't a movie. Tristan McLean was half dead and about to be eaten. The only people who could stop it, 3 fashionably dressed teenage demigods and a megalomaniac goat. Great. Narrator Leo's so fun. I'm a big fan of Narrator Leo. Hedge then states, there's 4 of us and only 1 of him. So I like this thought process from Hedge. And then Leo asks him, did you forget about the part where that guy is a 30-foot tall giant?
Which should count for like at least 3 or 4, right?
Right. I mean, if you just stack them, let's say they're an average of like what?
We already know he's got at least 2 Leos.
Right. Just on his biceps alone. So yeah, he's probably bigger than the 4 of them combined. So I don't know that it's going to work. But Hedge then decides to adjust his plan. And he says, okay, new plan. The boys distract him, and Piper goes and saves her dad. Then everyone turns and looks at Jason, who goes, what? I'm not the leader. To which Piper goes, yes, you are. And then everyone kind of nods in agreement. And Leo, as the narrator, lets us know that they haven't really discussed it, but no one disagrees. Not even Hedge, who has all this confidence, he's okay with deferring to Jason. And Leo, very maturely, recognizes that getting to this point, getting to Mount Diablo, that was a team effort. But Jason has been the go-to guy in high-pressure situations. Even though Jason doesn't remember his past, it is clear to Leo that he's been in these battles before, and he has a sense of calm about him when these stressful moments present themselves. So it's clear as day, this dude's the leader. Let's follow this guy. And I really appreciate this from Leo because I feel like the past couple of chapters where he was narrating, starting with the Medea stuff, we were getting these seeds of jealousy. Does he not like Jason? Does he wish he had the spotlight? Does he not think that Jason deserves this? So I'm really glad that Leo has come along and come around, and it didn't really take that long.
Yeah, I do think it's a really cool characterization for Leo to underline that while Jason isn't explicitly like the leader of the quest, he's definitely like the field marshal or the general. Like in those pressures,
Sure.
like he's the one calling the plays. He's the one that they trust to like coordinate them.
Yeah. And I guess what's good is like they don't really know exactly what they're doing. The quest is just kind of like, let's vaguely follow the prophecy. So you don't necessarily need a strategist, which is good since Jason can't remember anything. But he does have these instinctual things. And we'll see that when he does the Latin things where he kind of just like bursts out and knows stuff. So for him to be, kind of like the point of reason when those moments come up, I think it totally makes sense. So then we get this quote, Leo wasn't exactly the trusting type, but he trusted Jason with his life. And I just think this is really good growth for Leo, and I really like it. Gives me good optimism about his development as a character, because I don't want him to be like whiny, mopey, oh man, Jason's so much cooler than me. Boy, I want him to be cool and sure of himself, because Leo is cool and should be sure of himself. So Jason sighs and says that he regrets to admit it, but Hedge's new plan is probably their best course of action. And Leo, as the narrator, is like, okay, yeah, this isn't like a good plan, but it is our best plan.
That's the bar.
Yeah, the bar is the floor. They don't have the luxury of time to discuss this or any other plan with the deadline fast approaching, but then Leo gets an idea about what his toy can do. So Chekhov's wind-up toy has returned. We'll see what happens. But then Leo ends the chapter with, let's boogie before I come to my senses. Okay, Leo, cool. So that's the end of chapter 41, which we will retitle. I wanted to get a little hiking pun in the mix, so I wrote no switching back now. So on hikes, there's these things called switchbacks. Did you have a chapter 41 retitling?
Yeah, I mean, definitely something about like I go on the toughest hike of my life.
Yeah.
We'd need to workshop this, but something like we walk up to hell.
Oh,
Like Mount Diablo, like instead of going down, they're going up.
Yeah, I like that. That's a good one. That's fun. Okay, let's do the beginning of chapter 42 before we break for intermission. Now, chapter 42, we get to the point where they're like picking their plan and they're like, oh yeah, let's do this plan is the end of chapter 41. And then the beginning line of chapter 42, quote, the plan went wrong almost immediately. Great. So fun.
But also, it didn't, though.
Right.
I think it's like just talking about Leo's self-confidence that the minute something stressful happens, yeah, he's like catastrophizing when like really maybe it wasn't that thorough of a plan to begin with, but everything happens according to what they were planning to do.
Yeah, I was much more concerned. I thought when it said the plan went wrong almost immediately, it'd be like, okay, break, and they'd move, and then Enchiladas would just be like, I see all of you, and then like throws a rock at them. Yeah, and then it's like, oh, roll for initiative. But no, so Piper starts to go along the ridge, while the boys just go straight to Enchiladas through the clearing. Jason has the Lance version of Fliptide in his hand, and he just yells, giant, like very confidently. And I love that.
Yeah, he's just in his like hero mode, you know, declaiming.
Yeah, it's very like, Dormamu, I've come to bargain. Like, just like draw all the attention to me.
Disappointed.
Disappointed. Enchiladas turns and smiles at this pleasant turn of events. And Leo doesn't like how happy he is. I don't like how happy he is. Hedge then yells, let the movie star go, you big ugly cupcake, or I'm going to plant my hoof right up your. And then Jason tells him to shut up. I feel like at this point, we got to get a tally going. It's becoming a recurring theme of Jason telling Coach Hedge to shut up before he can say something that will hurt whatever they're trying to achieve. And I love this recurring bit
of him just like, oh,
yeah, just
gotta stop there.
It's very fun, especially with the dynamic of like, in theory, Coach
right, you would
Hedge.
never actually say that to your coach,
right?
You know, as a player.
But Jason has learned this guy's not really my coach. He's just my peer. I can treat him out like a peer, and I appreciate that. But yeah, I think that would be a fun thing of like, how many times has Jason done this? Because it's happened enough where it's a thing. Enchiladas finds this taunt of calling him Big Ugly Cupcake. He finds this humorous and says that he wants to keep satyrs around after the Titans rule the world because he forgot how funny they are. And he says that Hedge and his kind can serve as entertainment while he eats the mortals. So that's just a fun picture of Enchilada's wonderful world he has in store for us. Hedge thinks that this might not be a compliment. Enchiladas smiles and his teeth begin to glow.
Okay.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Teeth begin
His
to glow?
teeth begin to glow?
Yeah.
Is it like a Godzilla situation where like he's powering up?
Yeah, that's what
Or
I
was it
thought.
like the flames behind his teeth, in which the teeth would be more in silhouette and not glowing?
But I guess I have never like
Could I
put
found a more nitpicky thing to
No,
question about?
Oh, you're coming to the right place.
It's like
I
his
have
teeth?
never
his
put
teeth. Am I reading that right?
I've never put a bright light inside of my mouth and then tried to look at, like, if I had a very tiny flashlight and I put it in my mouth and closed and then smiled like this and then look in the mirror, like, would it shine through my teeth? Like, I would imagine, like, teeth aren't going to completely block out the light. So
Yeah,
I would
could be.
think that maybe the teeth do glow just because there's like a column of fire coming up from his throat. So I think the teeth could glow.
I have no answer. It was just a
But
weird
it
thing
could
that I
also
bumped
be-
on.
No, initially I thought it was like, oh yeah, his teeth glow, like that's his power up, just like very video game thing of like, oh, when his teeth glow, that's when you have
Right,
to
that's
roll
the sign.
dodge because
Yeah,
then he's
yeah.
going to do the fire blast. Yeah. Then you hit him in his bright, flashing red spot behind his knee, and then his health bar goes down by 10%, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, his teeth glow, but then Leo goes scatter.
Glad we solved that one.
Yeah, no, we had to. It's very important that we do it. So then Leo goes, scatter! And then Enchiladas breathes fire. Jason and Hedge dive to the left. Leo takes shelter behind the bulldozer. He winds up his little toy and then places it in the driver's seat before heading to the tree harvester. And then he doesn't let us know what's happening. So even though we know that something is going to happen, we don't know what. So we're still left on the edge of our
Of course, he's met Chiron.
God, he's
It's contagious.
He's getting to all of them. Chiron has infiltrated even the new trio. So Jason then emerges and charges at Enchiladas, and Hedge joins after ripping off his now flaming jacket, screaming, "I liked that outfit," which is great. Hedge loving this outfit is so fun. But before they can get close, Enchiladas slams his spear on the ground, and all of Mount Diablo begins to rumble, less than ideal. Leo and Jason kind of fall down, but they're more of like staggering to their feet and stumbling. Hedge is completely knocked out cold, with his hindquarters pointing straight into the sky because he hit his head on a log. So again, now we have
Okay, maybe now the plan isn't like, fully on the rails.
Yeah, right. Like, I guess it's not completely messed up because I don't know that you need all three of them to run distraction if they're just trying to distract. But I do like that we're having another example of Hedge not being able to participate in a fight. And I wonder if it'll continue. I'm excited to see what happens. If they continue on and they're trying to save Hera, what's going to happen to Coach Hedge? Like, is he going to have some other thing that happens where he can't contribute to a fight? Especially if that becomes a recurring bit, like throughout all of the books. God, I would love it so much. It would be so fun. But we'll just have to see.
They have to survive first.
Oh, right. Yes. That would be wild.
Spoilers.
If all three of them die and then they're just like, so they weren't part of the seven.
book
New
two,
people,
brand new plot.
Son of Neptune. He's one of the seven. Those three died. So then Enchiladas sees Piper and he announces that he sees her and he shoots fire at her, which forces her to join the group in the clearing. And he tells Piper that he is glad that she's here and he thanks her for bringing him his prizes. And then Leo's heart sinks. He realizes, oh no, we've done exactly what he wanted. He wanted Piper to bring us to the mountain. Piper just brought us to the mountain. Great. And
But they knew that already, right? Like, that's not new info.
right. I don't exactly understand why his heart would sink. Maybe it's just like the realization, but like Piper warned them multiple times, like, this is a trap. This is what he wants. You guys shouldn't come. And then both Leo and Jason insisted,
Of course we're going.
we're doing this. No. Which, like, I get, but yeah, maybe Leo shouldn't be like super surprised here. But maybe he is just, I don't know, actually confronted with the danger rather than just the theoretical thought of the danger. It's like, oh, look, he's, 4 Shaqs. Like, that's huge. Shaq 7'2" for context. So Enchiladas notice.
Shaq with a Q, not.
Oh,
okay,
no.
sorry. I didn't,
Not Shaq.
I didn't catch that it was an
Not-
uppercase Shaq.
Look, you could have a Shaq that's about 7 foot 2 inches tall, but Shaquille O'Neal, always my point of reference when I'm talking about large people. So Enchiladas notices that Leo's emotions have changed. She sees his facial expression change when his heart drops, and he laughs louder. And then he states that he is prepared to make good on his end of the deal if Piper does hers by betraying the boys. And then Leo looks at Tristan, and he for sure looks rough, but he's definitely still alive, which is good. Piper then yells, "Dad!" And he mutters, "Pipes? Where?" And I've got to throw the challenge flag here. Piper, you told Leo you didn't like Pipes as a nickname, but your dad is calling you Pipes. You hypocrite.
Did she say, I don't like that as a nickname, or did she say, you're not allowed to call me that? Did she just kind of cut him off, like, that's not going to be a thing, you're not allowed to use that?
All right, we're going to go to my very legal PDF, and we're going to Control F for Pipes, and we're going to see how many...
Folks at the live show, this is how the sausage gets made.
Oh, okay, so there's more Pipes than I thought. Too close to Pipes. Okay, so her dad does call her Pipes a lot. Oh, okay, you're right. All right, so Leo in chapter... Hold on.
X5.
I got to do some quick Latin. 29. In chapter 29, Leo says, "Pipes, you're right." And Piper responds, "Don't call me that."
Yeah.
So,
That's a daddy's girl thing.
Yeah, that's what my dad calls me. My dad calls me Pipes. You can't call me that, Leo. You're just my friend. You're not my dad. Okay, cool. We've solved the mystery. Yay. So he says Pipes where, and then Enchiladas informs Piper that all she needs to do is swear her loyalty to him. And then Piper looks back and forth between the group and Tristan. And I love that Leo gets a little worried. He's like, Enchiladas is definitely going to kill you, so don't do what he wants. Like, I like that Leo isn't 100% sure that she's going to stick to the plan of not giving them up to him.
What I thought about this was really fascinating was the importance of her betraying them has more to do with like his ability to kill them, you know? So like the goal of whatever Enchiladas is doing isn't capture Leo and Jason. It's get Piper to betray Leo and Jason. Like that seems to be what he's, you know? Because like how does it actually help him for her to say, okay, I'm on your side? Like, great, I'm still a giant. I can breathe fire on these. Like, how helpful would Piper actually be to just capturing these other 3 people?
Yeah, because it does become apparent later in the chapter that, like, it's not just about getting rid of the 2. They want Piper on their side because of her abilities, because she starts to use the abilities against him, and he kind of says, like, this is what you could bring to our table. So, yeah, I think it's right. I think it's wanting her to be more, because and we've had
like jumping back to I think her conversation with her mom where like she has some important role to play, where maybe this is part of the plan is to remove her from the like being in the group's good graces so she can't play that conciliator down the line.
Right. I think specifically they like, even if it's not a thing where it's like Piper has some important role either in a different prophecy or whatever, the bad guys are trying to break up the 7. Like what we saw with the Medea-Leo kind of alley-oop from getting Leo's mom out of the picture in the past. That was trying to get Leo out of the mix. I think this is another attempt of like trying to get Piper out of the mix because they keep identifying each of the 7 people as a key piece of the puzzle. So I think they're trying to get rid of them. So yeah, they're trying to break her spirits. It might be the reverse. If he just like straight up killed Leo and Jason, she might seek vengeance and be more motivated to take down Enchiladas.
True.
So I think you're right. Instead, he needs her to be the one to do it. Now, Enchiladas pushes back against Leo's claim, saying that he's going to kill Piper anyway, saying that he was born for the purpose of fighting and defeating Athena. He calls himself the anti-Athena. He is smaller than his brethren, but he's more clever, and he promises to keep his deal with Piper because it's all part of his plan.
How about that lore drop?
Yeah.
That Gaia specifically engineered individual titans to fight the gods?
Yes, it feels very much like I think it was a season of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, or maybe one of the other early ones I watched when I was a kid, where they like there was basically
Seems like something that would have happened.
there was like the anti-Power Rangers, and it was like they had their colors, but they had like a different shape on their helmets, and it was like the blue one fought the blue one, and they kept beating them. But then the way that they defeated them is that they realized that the blue version of them was like designed to defeat, Billy, and the red version of the evil.
We just
so they
shift
had
one
to
to the
shift like the
left.
different color. Yeah, we all move one step over, and that's how they defeated the evil. It was great. It was a hype episode. I remember being 6 and being like actively worried that they weren't going to make it out. I was like, they can't beat them. What are they going to do? So
Just a super quick
Yes,
wiki search.
it was season 3 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
No. Enceladus is classically reoccurring in art of Athena. So there's a historical, they are tied in, him being one of her antagonists. I didn't read deep enough to see, was that guy's intention and, why he was created, or if that's just something that Rick picked up on and, extrapolated to this, fun pattern to play out through the books.
Yeah, no, and I'll just have to ask Dr. Boya if that is a thing. So that would be interesting to know. All these other folks, I'm the anti-Poseidon, I'm buoyant. I don't know, whatever.
Right, but also, his credentials for being the anti-Athena are that he's less dumb than the other giants and breathes fire. Seems to be his CV.
Well, it depends on how smart his brethren are. We have
Fair. I guess I don't know that these are Cyclopes kind of giants. Maybe they're more like Titans kind of.
Right, because we had Prometheus was very smart.
Yeah.
The Titan War, so we'll have to see. So Jason gets to his feet and readies his lance, but Enchiladas bellows again, and a dozen ogre-esque creatures emerge. And I was wondering this, but then narrator Leo even clarifies it. He means really emerge because they came up from the ground. They're 7 feet tall, which is more manageable. Again, Shaquille
How many
O'Neal height.
basketball
That's
goals is
Shaq.
that?
They're just Shaq.
Oh, it's one Shaq.
No,
It's
just
not a
one
basketball
Shaq.
goal.
No, it's 7/10 of a basketball goal, but it's 2 inches shorter than Shaq. Shaq is pretty tall, though, so I don't know. So they're 7 feet tall, but it's one of those things where it's like when you call an NBA player short, by comparison, 7 feet tall compared to 30 feels great. It's like the flip of when you're like, oh yeah, Steph Curry, he's a little guy. He's 6'3". He's just so much shorter than LeBron and Kevin Durant and all these other guys. So they are 7 feet tall, and they each have 6 arms. Now, these people were in a dream, I think, earlier in the book. They had the humanoid, multiple-armed figures, maybe the Hera flashback or something when Jason was teleported over. Not the flashback, but the, teleport dream when Jason was knocked out thing. And they have these extra arms. They're all wearing leather loincloths. A lot of loincloths in this book. A lot of loincloths going on. The Cyclopes and Monocle Motors had them.
Because it's, still a kid's book.
Oh, so they can't just be naked like they would
Right,
be?
yeah.
Yeah, that tracks. Sure. Yeah. I'm sure in the Greek art they were just freeballing. So they also, in addition to this, they smell. About this, Leo says, quote, 6 guys who never bathed with 6 armpits each. Leo decided if he survived this day, he'd have to take a 3-hour shower just to forget the stench. And I think that is a perfect place to break for intermission. Unless you had some sort of quick comment to make. Great, cool. But let's first say goodbye to the podcast people, because at this point, if you're listening, we're going to break for the Lost Euro. So let's all say goodbye to the podcast people.
Goodbye, podcast people.
Hello and welcome to the Lost Euro Shubio edition. Reminder that the Shubio is in New York City, and that is where you should be either in person or virtually via the internet tonight. If you're listening to this the day it comes out, Monday, September 23rd at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, we've got a live show / live stream for the first 2 chapters of The Son of Neptune. That's the next book in the series. I will be joined by Johnny Frolickstein live on stage to break these down. If you're in or near New York, come through. If you get the internet, also come through. You can go to thenewsfilmban.com/live for tickets. And for the stream, you can watch it live, 7:30 p.m. Eastern to 9:30 p.m. Eastern, or you can watch it whenever is a better time for you, because every ticket comes with a 7-day replay. So if that day or time doesn't work for you, or you're hearing this after Monday, September 23rd, as long as you get a ticket before the end of the day on September 30th, you can watch the stream. And if you're a patron, you get 20% off tickets. So that is pretty sweet. It's going to be really fun. We'll do Q&A, so you can email in questions even if you are not live in the audience in New York. So there's a lot of fun stuff happening. I have just recently finished finished reading The Lost Hero. I'm going to read the first 2 chapters of The Son of Neptune tonight in prep for the show. I'm recording this little mid-roll break here on Sunday, and I can understand why Kelly suggested I do the first 2 chapters of the next book at the live show, because given the ending of The Lost Hero, this is going to be pretty hype, and I don't think that you are going to want to miss it. So be a part of the action, whether you're there in person or you are there virtually. Going to be a really fun stream as well. Go to thenewsolympian.com/live for tickets. Now, if you get to the end of this episode and think, oh my goodness, that was so great, I can't wait to hear Mike and Michael's thoughts on the next episode. Well, you don't have to. All TNO patrons get access to the video version of the live show that we did in Atlanta. So you can go to thenewsolympian.com/Patreon and join any of the TNO tiers, and you can see the video of Michael and I at the Atlanta show doing 4 chapters of coverage. So if you really can't wait for the next set of chapters, you don't have to. Head on over to thenewsolympian.com/Patreon and watch us, and you get to watch next week's episode a week before everyone else, and then you're a patron, and then you can use that patron discount to come to the stream on Monday. Come on. Also, just in case you didn't get an email about this, or you didn't see on social media, or you didn't hear this in the last episode, the Vienna, Virginia show has been moved to December 3rd. That is a postponement, and I just want to make sure that you don't go to the venue this week to go and watch it, because it's been postponed to December 3rd, which is a Tuesday. But you should come through. That'll also be really, really fun. And also, as of this past Friday, the tickets for the show in Austin, Texas on December 16th are now live. You can get tickets for that at thenewsolympian.com/live and head on over there to see where else we're coming. We've got Dallas and Toronto and a whole bunch of other cities. Boston still has some tickets left for the early show. Lots of fun stuff going down with the end of the year touring schedule. Now, at these upcoming live shows, we've got new merch, but you don't have to be in attendance at the live show to get the merch. You can get the new merch at thenewsolympian.com/merch. That includes the new posters that we have that are gorgeous, and I have signed them if you want my scribble in the bottom left corner. There's the new Et2 No Ethan pins, and then there's all the other stuff that we've got. Socks and stickers and shirts, a lot of other cool stuff all over at thenewsolympian.com/merch. And finally, just a scheduling reminder that next week I will be taking the week off. September is a 5 Monday month, so not going to be posting an episode to the feed. If my schedule allows, I might post a little something to the feed about whatever charity that we are donating for the week off. If I don't post something to the feed, I'll talk about the charity that we supported in the mid-roll break of the next episode. Now, I have mentioned the Patreon a little bit here, and I want to give a shout out to the folks who have joined the Patreon most recently. So shout out to our newest Ultra God tier patron, Christine Parkin. Shout out to our newest Super God tier patron, Emerald Kemp. Shout out to our newest God tier patrons, Frog on a Toadstool, BK Waring, Abby, and Jonah Tile. And shout out to our newest Demigod tier patrons, Bearworks13, Victor Jones, and Raymond Carbett. Thank you all so much for your support. May Hypnos bless you that if you ever need to operate on a low sleep, you are able to operate on that sleep well. Maybe sometimes you can only get a handful of hours of sleep, but hopefully Hypnos can bless you to make the most of those hours. Now, if you're all caught up on the News Olympian and you're looking for a new podcast to listen to, you're in luck, because I make a bunch of podcasts. And if you like this one, you'll probably like some of the other ones. One of the ones you might enjoy is a little podcast called Horse. I co-host it with my buddy Adam Mamawala, where we talk about all things about the NBA and the WNBA, but only the fun, entertaining aspects of it. We don't get into the nitty-gritty of the analytics and stuff. We just talk about the storylines and the drama and all that cool stuff. The WNBA playoffs have just begun, which is a very fun time for you to listen to our show. So you can head on over to horsehoops.com, or you can search for Horse wherever you get your podcasts. Now, unless you're listening on Patreon, where you get access to ad-free episodes, you're going to hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of those ads will be read by me, and others of them won't be. The ones that aren't read by me are inserted locally. So if you live in Bolivia, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in Spanish or several dozen indigenous languages. According to the website that I use when I do these, that's the official language of Bolivia, Spanish, and several dozen indigenous languages. It's pretty cool. But once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of the News Olympian.
Hope you all had a good intermission. I missed you all so dearly. Let's conclude our coverage of chapter 42.
Where were we?
We were at the point...
Six armpits?
Yeah, we
Or
just
were
made some new friends who smell bad and have lots of arms. So, Leo said he was going to take a 3-hour shower to forget the stench after this escapade concludes. Leo asks Piper, what are these things? And she replies, Jejenes? Jejenes?
Sure.
I will have to ask her. Go ahead. Leo responds,
Hello. Oh, wow. this might be sounding very different to you, and it is. And you may have been wondering, why was some music coming in at the live show where Mike was talking? Well, I don't know what happened. I don't know what decision the guy running the soundboard made, but somehow he turned the music that was playing during intermission. My very good playlist that I have curated, and you can find on Spotify if you search for my username Schubes. It was called Feel the Rhythm, Feel the Vibe. It's a great playlist. However, somehow that music was put into the recording device, not in the venue, but into the recording device. So for the whole second act, Michael and I are talking, but then so is A Tribe Called Quest and New Jeans and a bunch of other artists. So we have fired up a video call post-show, and we will now be re-recording our thoughts on the second half of chapter 42. So Michael, how's it going?
Hello, Mr. Schubert. It was so weird. We were sitting in this theater, and all of a sudden, it's like we were beamed up to this room, just the two of us. Where'd all the audience go?
They are gone, sadly, but not forgotten.
How am I supposed to know if I'm funny?
I need that immediate feedback. It's okay. They laughed at the stuff we said in the moment, and my notes are the same. So we're going to do our best to live in that moment as much as we can, even though this is happening after the show. Unfortunately, the Q&A is going to be lost to time. I'll see if like any of the audio is like remotely salvageable. Sherry said it was like pretty tough listening wise. If it is, I'll like throw it on the Patreon, just like, hey, if you want to try to suffer your way, or like have a really loud backing track while we're talking about books. But we are going to pick up where this left off, basically act 2 of the show. So the comment that was last heard without background music behind it is when we have these 6-armed monsters coming through. And Leo said that if he survived this day, he would have to take a 3-hour shower just to forget the stench.
Yes, because all of the armpits.
All of the armpits. Leo asks Piper what these things are, and she replies, Jejanese? Do we know? I don't know how to say it. We didn't know how to say it on stage. I'll ask Dr. Moya, of course.
Yeah, Jejanese, one of those two.
Yeah, sure. Thankfully, Uncle Rick has recognized that we're not going to be able to pronounce this one easily, so from here on out, they are just the Earthborn, doing all of us a favor. So in response to this, Leo says, in English? And I like this because this is the one time that retort makes sense. I've gone on record saying I don't like when this sort of trope happens in TV shows.
Or like technobabble.
Yeah, when it'll happen in TV shows, especially like cop shows or any sort of like crime solving thing where the people who don't know what they're doing ask the nerdy person, hey, what do we do? And then the nerdy person answers their question and then they go, in English? It's like, you're the person who doesn't know the information. You need to get caught up to speed. You don't have to make them water it down so that you can understand it. I hate that that's a trope, but in this case, it actually does make sense.
It was a different language.
Yeah, exactly. Piper said something not in English, and she translates. She clarifies that they are the Earthborn. They are 6-armed giants who fought the original Jason. Enchiladas confirms, adding that they used to live on Bear Mountain in Greece, but now they are serving their mother here on Mount Diablo, and they're doing a great job with the construction equipment. And to prove this, one of the Earthborn yells, vroom, vroom, and moves all 6 arms like it's driving a car. And then all of the others join in. And have we considered that these guys absolutely rule and this is great? It's just a bunch of guys being dudes. This is fantastic.
They just like their Tonka toys or whatever.
You know, maybe they're just like toddlers.
Yeah.
I have a nephew who's a toddler and he absolutely adores all sorts of construction equipment. And anytime we walk by a bulldozer, snow plow, crane, whatever it is, he just wants to stop and check it out. And I love it. And I like that the Earthborn just have the brains of toddlers. But the fact that they each have 6 arms and they're doing the vroom vroom thing, that is fantastic. That's a lot of moving arm vroom vroom at the same time, acting like you're driving a car. And I would imagine that they're not doing a good job of pantomime where, you know, I don't think they're putting their hands at 10 and 2 and very politely driving. They're doing the very bad pantomime drive where they're going really high up and down, left and right, height, and no one actually drives a car like that. This just bugs me as an improviser. Phones don't look like your pinky is pointing out and your thumb is pointing up. You don't hold a phone like that. It's funny that we did not do this bit on stage, and it's a purely visual bit, and I've saved this for the audio only.
Right. I was like, how do I respond to that? Because well, I can see your hand, but you get it. And if you're old enough to know what the phones used to look like,
Back in our day.
right,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense to the kids that have never seen a phone that's that long.
I think they've seen enough people poorly pantomime phones.
Yeah.
So that's always bugged me. And then also when people pantomime drinking out of a glass and they put their thumb like in their mouth, you know how you hold a glass of water like that. Anyway, this is improv shenanigan corner with Mike, and we'll get out of this nitpick territory and back to Percy Jackson. Enchilada says that they have a score to settle with heroes, specifically those named Jason. And this is just getting unfair. Jason didn't ask to be named Jason. He doesn't deserve all the bad rep of previous Jasons. And for the two of us being Michaels, this sort of thing is absolutely terrible. There are so many Michaels out there. And if we have to bear the burden of all the horrible Michaels in the world, of which I'm sure there are millions, like we got to deal with the baggage of every bad Michael, that's not fair.
Yeah, has to be at least a few war crimes in that list somewhere.
I don't know. For all these people to hate Jason just because of his name, it's not. It would be different if he was like related to the guy. Maybe we'll find out that to be true. I don't. And what was the original Jason? He's a demigod. Was he a demigod? Is he a demigod? Who are his parents?
I don't remember. I know he's a hero, but yeah, I don't remember his lineage per se.
I don't know that he's a demigod. Jason and the Argonauts. Jason parents.
Oh, we can just look stuff up now.
I know, right? We can take time to answer questions as opposed to being terribly afraid of, oh no, are we being boring on stage? A somewhat unconventional hero, Jason was the leader of the Argonautic expedition in the quest of retrieving the Golden Fleece, the son of Aeson and Alcimede, or Alcimede, or Alcimede, or Alcimede, or Alcimede, Alcimede. So yeah. So Aeson named his son Jason? Come on. Come on, Aeson.
It seems like it used to be a lot more common that you'd like, like just names were derivatives slightly of.
Yeah.
Of course, an example's not coming to mind, but
I've got one, King T'Challa and King T'Chaka.
Right. Or like Aragorn, son of Arathorn.
Yes, you're right.
I'm sure there are non-fictional examples of this as well, but
but that's boring. Yeah, isn't it Boromir and Faramir? Aren't they brothers? Like they have basically the same name. So yeah, I can see that. I always thought the T'Challa and T'Chaka thing was fun because they're one letter next to each other in the alphabet.
Oh, you're just going down the list.
Like, do they just keep it? Is it like King T'Chama next?
Right, yeah.
So anyway, Percy Jackson.
It must be such a trade-off of like, correct me if I'm wrong, by this point you learned that Jason is somewhat of a like offering to Hera. Like he was named Jason because Hera liked the original Jason or something.
Right.
So it must be like a trade-off of like the people who will like you because you're named after this figure and the people who try to kill you because you're named after the first guy.
Correct. Now the giants start chanting that they want to kill Jason, and they form these pointed stones in their hand out of the earth. Now, for Jason, is this like a Greek thing of why they're pronouncing it wrong? I was wondering why specifically they did Jason and not Jason.
Yes, I think in Greek there isn't a J letter per se.
Yeah, at least.
So you would use an I?
Yeah,
or
at
a
least
Y?
in Latin, you use an I instead, because I did take Latin in high school, so I know this. So yeah, I guess that would be that. Okay, so yeah, they're saying Jason, enchiladas.
Greek alphabet. Now we can do this.
We can Google things.
Yeah, looks like there's not a J sound in ancient Greek, just like in Latin. Or was it from Raiders of the Lost Ark, where it was like Jehovah spelled with an I? It was like a big plot point.
Oh, I was just remembering earlier in the book when Fliptide was a coin and it had Julius on it, but it was Julius because of the eyes. So,
also that.
Look at all these references. Pop culture. Now,
Look at
Enchiladas tells Piper that she has a choice. Save her father or try to save her friends and avoid certain death. And I feel like the guarantee is the more enticing option, but I think that's exactly what he's going for. He's trying to make option B not sound as appealing. Piper steps forward, so enraged that the Earthborn back away. Narrator Leo about this says, quote, she radiated power and beauty, but it had nothing to do with her clothes or makeup. And it's confidence. I like this. I like to see the aura, the beauty, the impressiveness of a child of Aphrodite being chalked up to confidence, because that can go a long way in someone being hot. So for that to be the explanation here, as opposed to just, oh, wow, she looked pretty, I think is very cool. I like this being introduced. Piper, when she steps forward with all of this power, says, you will not take the people I love, none of them. And it works very well because the Earthborn apologize and begin to retreat. Enchiladas tells them to stand their ground and then tells Piper that this is why they wanted her alive, to use her power for their benefit. He realizes that she has made her choice, so he tells the giants that he will direct them to Jason so that they can enact their revenge. But plot twist, he points at Tristan. And obviously we're not supposed to like Enchiladas. Obviously he's a bad guy, he's evil.
That's pretty clever.
It's a really good move. It's a really good move. The Earthborn don't seem like they have the brain space to recognize that this doesn't really make sense. And they're not looking at context clues. They're just going to think our boss points at him, we attack him. Really smart move from Enchiladas. Unfortunately, you got to hand it to him.
We are getting some evidence that he's, at least in some ways, a match for Athena in terms of like trickery and cleverness, that he's not just like a dumb brute like we're used to with that kind of monster.
Totally. Yeah, that's a thing that you don't necessarily see because, you know, all the giants are meant to take over particular gods. And yeah, Athena's all about planning, and this guy on paper would seem like he's just big strong, but no, he's thinking. Narrator Leo then says, quote, Leo's biggest surprise, one look from Jason and all three of them knew the game plan. When had that happened that they could read each other so well? And I like this. I like the unspoken knowledge, just the teamwork, making the dream work. I think this is good. It shows that the friendship is there. This happened with our original trio, or at the very least we had Percy and Annabeth kind of being able to predict each other's moves without saying anything. So for this trio to get that is awesome.
And like Jason's specific skills as a like battle master.
Yes.
You know, he can kind of direct them non-verbally and they know like what the tactic's going to be.
Mm-hmm. Jason charges at Enchiladas. Piper rushes to Tristan. Leo heads for the tree harvester that is between Tristan and the Earthborn, and the giants then chase after Leo, but he gets to the harvester in time and swings the crane arm through the bonfire, which sends logs toppling down towards the Earthborn, and two of them are toast. Literally and figuratively. Leo hits a button and then blades come out of the crane arm and begin to whir. And I just got to say, thank goodness that there was machinery around for Tool Boy. Thank goodness that there was some large, heavy machinery around. I wonder if it will keep coming up because Leo was very helpful in the Monocle Motors fight because there was big machinery. Now he's helpful in this fight because there's big machinery. So hopefully that's a recurring theme.
I had the exact same note written down, was other than giving Leo a way to participate in this fight, why was there construction equipment here?
Yeah.
Like, was it purely a metagame move, or like was there a narrative explained? Were they building something? Was there like a logging site already here that they took over? Like that didn't quite seem clear.
Right. And even continuing to read this chapter, I was unsure as well. I had the same question because I don't think it's just the equipment being there, because earlier Enchiladas said they've been very helpful with the construction equipment.
Yeah. You know, they're driving the vroom vrooms and whatnot.
Of course. So it seems intentional. And I guess it's just for the offering, like they wanted to have like a cleared out space to set up the bonfire. I mean, I guess they needed logs for a bonfire. It seems overkill.
Like we saw that Enchiladas was chanting into the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of implies that there's some kind of ritual going on.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, like plot-wise, it just seems like he was there specifically waiting for them and for no other purpose.
Yeah. So I guess they were just clearing out the space for it. It does seem unnecessary, but it does allow Leo.
Thanks for Leo.
Participate in this fight. Leo notices Piper cutting her dad free and Jason fighting enchiladas and dodging his slashes and his fire breath. And then Leo says, quote, Coach Hedge was still heroically passed out with his goat tail sticking up in the air.
Great.
I love this. Forgotten that Hedge was in the mix. I'm glad that we get the insertion of comedic relief. Coach Hedge, even when he's not an active part of the scenes, he's still comedic relief just in what happened to him. So great. And at this point, I wrote in my notes.
Still heroically passed out.
It's a great little
He's doing a
note.
great job at being unconscious.
The little sassy line there from Leo is fantastic as the narrator. And here I wrote in my notes, Hedge's quote after the fight is going to rip because he's totally going to take credit for being the reason that they won. He did this with King Midas. He's going to have some sort of quote where he's like, I showed them, didn't I? And I cannot wait to see what it is. The fire is spreading across the mountain, and Leo knows that he must stop it because even though he would be okay, his friends won't be. They don't have any sort of fire resistance power. And then an Earthborn charges at Leo, so he is able to easily defeat him with the blades. Very fun that this Earthborn, proving what I said earlier, that I don't know that they are the brightest lamps in the living room. Just running straight at a machine with whirring blades does not seem ideal. So he gets vanquished quite simply. And then one screams, bad vroom vroom. And Leo asks if they want some bad vroom vroom. And then narrator Leo says, unfortunately, they did. So all of the Earthborn start throwing rocks at Leo. Leo does a back somersault off the harvester just in time.
Since when has Leo been able to do backward somersaults?
Yeah, it's a new thing, and I feel like he even later in the chapter wonders how he was able to do it. I guess you just got to chalk it up to demigod battle instincts?
Right, yeah. Some gymnastics training.
Yeah, so at this point, I was wondering, where is Leo's gadget? We had the gadget, and of course it's going to come back because we even had Leo knowing how to use it. He set it up, and I'm thinking, where is this? And then literally the next line in the book is Leo yelling, Dozer! And it springs to life just in time because these ogres have now picked up rocks to throw at Piper. Not ideal. So it then drives towards the enemies and is able to use its shovel to block Piper from most of the rocks that are thrown at her just as she finishes cutting Tristan free. And I did not like that the narration said most, because fun fact, most does not mean all. So there is a chance that Piper and Tristan are going to get hit by some rocks, and I don't think that they are resistant to rock throwing. This is great. I'm making a bunch of jokes I didn't make on stage. I love this. So two of the rocks bounced back off of the shovel block and defeated the giants. Thankfully, there was enough rebounding action to knock them out. And here's the answer to what is the most, what got through. One rock got through. It didn't hit a person. It hits the engine of the dozer, so it's out of commission. And that's fine. We'll take that. Not the ideal situation, but yeah, we'll take
True
dozer.
MVP of this battle, the bulldozer.
Not a long career, but had a good peak. Very helpful. You did what you could in the time allotted.
Yep.
Made the most of it. Piper begins to drag Tristan away, and then she is chased by the final Earthborn, but Leo refuses to let them get to her. So he just grabs anything that he can from the tool belt, and it turns out to be a screwdriver. And he goes, hey, stupid, and chucks it at the giant, and it sinks into his forehead all the way to the handle, which rules.
That's great blue hairbrush energy.
You're right.
Like, I've got a thing. It's not going to do a whole lot, but
canonically, it makes sense that I just need a catch-all tool from the tool belt would be a screwdriver. I feel like that and Swiss Army knife would be the most logical things of, I just need something that works, because you can do a whole lot with a screwdriver. So I think it thematically makes sense. But yes, it goes all the way into the handle. That rules. It doesn't defeat the monster, but it does get his attention enough where he's no longer focusing on chasing down Piper. And I would imagine that something stuck in your forehead between your eyes would get your attention. So I think this is quite logical.
Yeah, nice little elemental lobotomy.
The Earthborn stops, screams, and pulls it out. And at this point, Leo realizes that it is the biggest Earthborn of the bunch, unfortunately. So they have saved the best for last. And then we get this quote from the narrator. Gia had really gone all out creating him with extra muscle upgrades, deluxe ugly face, the whole package. Oh, great, Leo thought. I've made a friend. And I think that's a fun way to describe this. And it especially makes sense for Leo being the car, machinery, techie kind of guy.
Yeah, thinking of everything as a package of features, upgrades,
Right. He didn't just get the baseline model of Subaru Outback. He got the Explorer edition with four-wheel drive and a moonroof and all this stuff. So I think it's a fun description. And this is the kind of narration stuff that I like. You truly do get the sense like, oh, yes, Leo is narrating this chapter. And it sounds different from when Piper does it and when Jason does it. And I think it's fun. Now, the Earthborn screams, in all caps, "You die! Friend of Jason dies!" Very fun. I like the Earthborn. They're a fun villain set to go against. And the Earthborn scoops up 2 mounds of dirt that then become rock cannonballs. Leo tries to grab something else from the tool belt, but he can't think of anything, so he has to go to his backup plan of fire. And he screams, "Hephaestus!" Like
There
he's
are
a
worse
power.
plans.
There are worse plans.
But sorry, I stepped on your Power Rangers joke.
No, you're
You wanna
good.
take
It's
that one
totally
again?
fine. Yep. I'll take it again. He screams, "Hephaestus!" like he's a Power Ranger getting ready to put the Megazord together. And he charges at the ogre with just his fists as weapons. But then the narrator says, he never got there. So I wrote my notes, oh? But the narrator, Leo, continues, quote, "A blur of turquoise and black flashed behind the ogre. A gleaming bronze blade sliced up one side of the Earthborn and down the other. 6 large arms dropped to the ground, boulders rolling out of their useless hands. The Earthborn looked down, very surprised. He mumbled, quote, 'Arms go bye-bye.' Then he melted to the ground." And at first, I'm thinking, okay, yeah, this is Piper, but since when does Piper have cool teleportation abilities? I was thinking very Nightcrawler from X-Men. She
Like a BAMF cloud of turquoise and black.
Exactly. And I was thinking turquoise and black, like that's a fun color scheme, but Aphrodite feels more pink to me. I don't know why she would do this. And then I wrote in my notes, oh, her outfit, not a magical blur.
Yes. No, just
a visual blur.
Just a very nice dress that is somehow combat ready.
I had forgotten about her outfit because really Hedge was hyping his up a lot and Piper's didn't really come back. So the turquoise really threw me for a loop. But this is a really fun description and good for Piper to show that she has some battle prowess. Obviously, we have seen her talk her way out of situations.
How sharp is this dagger?
Or just, I guess she is cutting through mud. So it's not like too tough. But yeah, we have seen her now talk her way out of situations. We've seen her kind of intimidate her way through situations, but now we've seen she also can wield a dagger. She can also get in the mix if she needs to. So she can do main hand attack if needed.
I think this was the first time that we saw her actually use the dagger, like offensively, and not just like as a looking
mirror.
glass.
Yes, not just as a decorative piece. Yeah, this is the first time I think that she's used it. I guess she used it to cut her dad free, but this is the first time she's used it to vanquish a villain. So that's cool to see and good to know for the future. She can use this thing for more than just seeing if she looks scared. Piper then is just standing there, panting, wielding a dagger covered in clay. Tristan is beside her. He's in rough shape, but he's not dead, which is key here. That is huge. Good thing to know.
We love a father who is not dead yet.
We love an alive dad. Piper has a wild look in her eyes, and that makes Leo glad that she is on his team. So again, glad she's on our side. She would be a terrible asset for the other team to take hold of. And then Piper just says, quote, "Nobody hurts my friends." And it makes Leo feel warm and fuzzy inside because just for Piper to admit and recognize, yeah, Leo's my friend too. It's not just Jason. I'm also friends with Leo. That's really nice for
Just
him.
my imaginary boyfriend's imaginary best friends.
Yeah, the how many degrees of separation. But no, Leo is her friend, and I think that's fantastic. She then yells, "Come on!" And Leo realizes the battle is not yet over because, quote, according to narrator Leo, Jason was still fighting enchiladas, and it wasn't going well. Dun, dun, dun. And on that dramatic note, we end chapter 42 and this episode. You have anything else to say, though, before we wrap things up?
Yes, I thought it was really fascinating. This seems like we've had a pattern here of climactic moments that are being narrated by someone other than you would expect.
Correct.
Like you had Leo was narrating when they finally found Thalia. And so I was kind of like, well, what does Jason think? Then they got the next chapter that was from Jason's point of view. And so kind of makes sense. And in this one, where they're finding Piper's dad, you would think that it would be this big emotional thing of what's going through her head when she's trying to find her dad. But it's Leo still. So maybe Leo is just like the action guy. Like he's more fun to follow during an action scene and then we'll pivot to one of the other characters to like debrief what they felt about it later when there's some downtime.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And I think it makes sense over the timeline of the story, because basically early on, we were learning of Leo's tragic backstory, trauma, and all that kind of stuff.
True.
We had
He started
more of
as
the
feelings
chapters.
guy.
Exactly. He had the Tia Kaida thing. He had figuring out his own powers. How do I fit in with the Hephaestus cabin? Now I'm saving Festus. I'm in the bunker by myself. I'm not telling anyone what's going on. I have these fire powers. I'm scared of them. So that was that early on. And on the flip side, early on, Jason was, I don't know anything. So earlier, Jason was the, we just got to move the plot along narrator. And then I would say that Piper was kind of in between. And then more in the middle, Piper was kind of the, we got to move things along narrator. And now in this case, we have Leo taking that because we already kind of know Leo's deal and his emotions are set. We understand where he's coming from. Jason now, since we're starting to learn more about him, he's not plot narrator anymore. He is, oh my gosh, Thalia, oh my goodness, I'm learning about how I fit into the big picture and all this stuff and what I used to do in my past and all these things. And then Piper also just all the dad stuff. So yeah, I think it just kind of has shifted. I don't know if that's an intentional thing by Rick. I don't know if it's just kind of how the story shook out, but I think you're right.
Or if he just set up a rhythm of this is the pattern and whoever his turn as it is, then you're the one that gets to tell us about this.
Yeah, it could just be that, but I think it is working out really well narratively. And especially in these chapters where we still got to move the action along and we can't have too much emotion. Last time we had an action and emotion chapter, it was, I think, Piper and Medea in that fight. And in the grand scheme of things, not much happened in that chapter.
Yeah, it was like a lot of stuff that almost happened. So there was some tension. Like, are they going to fight? But I guess you couldn't have that from one of the boys' perspective because they were, mind wiped.
Yeah, it was like 2 full chapters when really they just kind of like met Medea, went down, fought, went up, and whatever. And it took a long time. It was still awesome, but it took a long time. So for Leo here to kind of move things along works out. And then, yeah, just like the Jason Thalia thing, I'm sure we'll get into the Tristan emotion with Piper later. And I think it makes sense for those chapters to happen when they're not fighting. We can have Piper narrate when we're talking to Tristan as opposed to when we're just saving Tristan who is passed out. So I think it all kind of works and shapes together, and it makes for some good chapters. And this made for some good content. So hopefully everyone enjoyed this best of both worlds episode. It's like a black and white cookie. You got the live, you got the not live. Bing, bang, boom. Super fun. Oh, let's say what our retitling were. For chapter 42, I had retitled it, I Tinker with Toys. Just kind of felt like, you think it might just be his little tinker thing, but then it's also the big bulldozer-y type equipment. What did you retitle this chapter as?
I think I piggybacked on your title because of it's like the construction equipment. Something like I tinker with Tonka trucks or Tonka toys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's just those little yellow bulldozer dump truck things that I had growing up. It seems like Leo would be into.
Mm-hmm. And unsurprisingly, I did not have those. Who would have ever guessed that Pink Pants Boy didn't play with Tonka trucks growing up? But we will now conclude this episode. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining, both in the past and now here again.
You're
in
welcome.
The different past.
Past me was probably a little higher energy than 2 p.m. on a Friday afternoon, Michael.
Look, we're getting all the essences, It's never just the full spectrum of the Michaels here. But now, since we're not live, do you want to plug anything? Anything to promote to the folks at home?
No, just, love your neighbors, figure things out. The world's weird right now, but yeah, that's what I got to say about that.
Fantastic. Love your neighbors. What a good message. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining. Again, listeners, thank you so much for listening. And until we figure out what's going on next time from the Atlanta live show where the audio did work, confirmed that one is going to work. It'll be live the whole time. You get the Q&A and the whole big shebang. And you can watch the video version up on it on Patreon right now. It's already up, so you can get early access if you don't want to wait. Until then, I'll see you later. Hello. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Newest Olympian. This podcast is created, hosted, and produced by me, Mike Schubert. I also run the social media and the website. Our editor is Sherry Guo. The music is by Bettina Campamanes and Brandon Grugel, and the art is by Jessica E. Boyd. If you can't get enough of the podcast, you can get involved in a couple of different ways. First, you can support us on Patreon, where you get bonus content. You can go to thenewestolympian.com/Patreon. You can also find us on social media. We're at Newest Olympian on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. You can go to our website, thenewestolympian.com, to learn more about the show. You can check out live shows that we've got coming near you at thenewestolympian.com. thenewsolympian.com/live. You can check out our merch page at thenewsolympian.com/merch. That's also where the TNO coffee lives. And for community stuff, we have a subreddit where you can chat with folks, reddit.com/r/thenewsolympian. And we also have the Discord, which is accessible to all folks on Patreon. Speaking of the Patreon, I want to give a shout out to our folks producing at the highest tier, our producer level patrons. Shout out to Kelsey Gillespie, The Damn Steam Nuggets, Vicky Garcia, Veronica Bartova, Frida Vikstrom, Megan Moon, Craig McRoberts, Taylor Payne, Sabrina Balsiger, Boney Pony, Polly Burridge, Nikki Harris, Tatiana Schmidt, Sandra Rose, Josh Sayer, Josh Wilkie, Abby Ryan, Ashton Gabrielson, Marco Redhouse, Sam Reeby, Riley Kiddes, Mrs. O'Leary, Milo Kim, Sandkopf, Julia Kendall, Rike, John Drillsma, Rayla Matthews, Sky Mallory, Persasabeth, Aiden Parziani, King Bastion, One Damn Distraction Coming Up, Ginger Spursboy, A Cup of Solace, Meg Roy, Radimus Prime, Skylar Sisters, Scott Sheldon, Sophie, Natanya Page, Ann M. Thayer Cohen, Finley McLeod, Sarah Elise Arnson, Bella, Hayden Neal, Percy Jackson, Han Haley Hingleheimer Schmidt, Catherine Sloan, Jessica Phillips, Haley Mary, Jim Jam Kubi, Kitka Crumbs, and Christine Parkin. If you want to help out the show in a non-monetary way, word of mouth helps the show so much. Whether you post about the show on social media or you reach out to someone directly, someone who you know is a big Percy Jackson fan, or someone you've been trying to convince to get into the Percy Jackson books, saying, hey, there's this podcast, it's called The New Olympian, it's really good, you should check it out. Also, you could leave the show a rating and review on whatever podcasting app you're using. Whatever you do to spread the word of the show really does help. I'm appreciative to anyone who has done it in the past, and I'm appreciative to anyone who will do it in the future. But I'm just so thankful that you tuned into this episode, and I hope you tune into our next episode where we'll be joined by Michael Hollis once again, this time live in Atlanta, to break down chapters 43 through 46 of The Lost Hero. Reminder, that's not going to be on September 30th, but instead on October 7th. And until then, I'll Percy you later. Hey everyone, it's going to be ASMR Mix. So with the live shows that are coming up, I'm going to be selling the TNO beads. And in order to make the packages, because now I have to do it, my merch company doesn't do it anymore, I got to do it myself. I have bought like a spool of thread and I need to snip it into the necklace pieces. I have it right here and it's in a bag and stuff. So I'm just going to like prepare me for spool snipping and just do it near the microphone. Ah, yes, the satisfying sounds of unwrapping. Thank you so much for listening.